So what I want to share with you guys today is rhetoric in computer science and how it relates to mathematics, but is different from mathematics because usually discrete mathematics is the head of computer science. So if anyone's ever told you that computer science is not math, just wanted to let you know right now, you've been lied to. Now, the wonderful thing about computer science is that we are able to understand more complex patterns and more complex equations very easily because we're able to put them into a computer that can compute things so much faster than the human mind. Not everything, but the majority of things, the computers will be able to dramatically increase the speed and shave down centuries of work into just a mere matter of minutes in a lot of cases. But the hard thing about this is when we're starting to deal with these bigger concepts, we come across something that we don't understand. We come across a dimension that we've never seen and we can't see. And so we have to work with something called abstraction. We have to be able to wrap our head around things by taking these events that are happening in the computer and putting them more into the ideas of what's going on, which is said right here where abstraction is dealing with ideas rather than events. And so just to kind of prove this, in code, when you're ever coding, if you ever get to a point where you have a very difficult and very hard piece of code that is challenging to wrap your head around, for example, if you're dealing with something that's five-dimensional for some reason, which actually does come up quite often, I should say, then you'll need to make it understandable to not only you but to others, and especially in rhetoric. If you're trying to convince someone of something, this abstraction is extremely important because you have to at least share and communicate your ideas. If you're not sharing it, then you're not understanding at all. So right here I just have a little quote that talks about a proof, and by itself it is a little bit hard and difficult to understand. It's not just instantly in your mind, whereas down here it has a graph which helps you be able to grasp the idea and see what the intention is. So starting off with rhetoric, the wonderful thing about computer science, and I might say that quite a bit, there's a lot of wonderful things about it, but the wonderful thing about it is that it allows us to go so much further and it's still so new. And even though it's so new, we've gone so far already. But the hard part about that is going so far, we have created certain situations that are maybe not the best ground or framework for us to be standing on. And so when we're talking in computer science, actually one important thing is we have to really express what is the issue, what is the history of this issue, and why does this issue exist, and how can we fix it, and what are the dangers of trying to fix this? For example, you can't just go ahead and fix the internet overnight. It was created and it took a long time, and because of how many people use it at the moment, it takes a long time to be able to go ahead and change. Now, that being said, there are certain things that can draw back, but that's a different discussion for a different day. So moving on, the rhetoric of computer science is a lot like math because it does contain those elements and it is the visualization of it, though there are some differences because it's more of a math in motion. It's a math that we can test right away and we can get results in. So we are able to run a lot of computations very quickly and test ourselves because we can say, alright, if each one of these are basic or they run off the same basic principles, we can test those out by saying our function, which handles this part of it, which handles addition, 1 plus 1, alright, well, it's going to equal 2. And we test it enough times to prove, okay, this function works. We can go ahead and we can start handling these larger complex systems. And so the visualization of math is very different in computer science because it helps us be able to see what we're doing and prove it at the same time right away. Which is wonderful because then we can say that what we have is tried and true. It's in a lot of cases indisputable. Not everything, because there's going to be imperfect math, there's going to be imperfect code, but we can say that our code is tested and controlled, our source material is shown, we can show that results are tested across all of our use cases in our systems, and so that we can more or less prove and not have to spend so much time on, okay, is this theorem correct, but more on, all right, what are the potentials and what are the downsides of this? Where can we go beyond this? Therefore, it's really important that we look at these different use cases. So right here, I put in a simple diagram that talks about two different data structures, and these aren't based on anything that's real. It's just to illustrate a point here. So for example, what these data structures do is they contain things. They're a list of sorts, and they have different things. They can add something to them, they can remove something from them, they can search, and they can print things off in order. So data structure number one right here, we can see it can add super quick, it can remove things really fast, and searching, yeah, it's just the same. But when you come to it and you say print this off in order, whoa, it takes a long time. And in contrast, so our data structure two, it says, well, it takes me a little longer to add things, it takes me a little bit longer to remove things, and searching, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just like the rest, but printing things off in order, I can do it like that. And so the advantage here is we can show off the different use cases. We can say, all right, well, here's something that we want to use in this situation, and here's something we want to use in this situation. We can really analyze what we have. So instead of, again, focusing on theorems and trying to prove points, we're focusing on use cases, on, all right, so is this going to be worth it? Is this really going to be beneficial down the road, or is this too specific and too costly to actually make a difference? So this brings us to the heart and soul of the computer science rhetoric, is that we're talking about discussion of what's the cost and benefits, what's our proposal, and why is this idea going to A, work, or B, not work, in revolving around not trying to prove math, not trying to understand if we did everything correct, but trying to showcase and say that, you know, there is a need here. This is something that is valuable enough to change, or something that is valuable enough to do, and either trying to prove that the cost is worth it or the cost is too much and we should give up on it. So we have this process where we're trying to prove our need by introducing what we have, explain the past, explain the history, why are we here, why do we need this or not need this. We're trying to show the use and the potential, or the potential why we shouldn't use it, and then we need to discuss its flaws. What are the disadvantages? So if we don't go down this path that we're proposing, what are the disadvantages? Or if we do go down the path, what are the disadvantages? What are we going to have to face? What are the consequences? Which really leads us into a very future-oriented discussion. And so this really takes a difference from some rhetoric in other disciplines, especially in math comparison, because we're not focusing on all these theorems of trying to prove them right and wrong, but instead we're trying to analyze what we have and see where we should go next. And it's talking about future thoughts. Is it worth it? Is it worth the cost? So here's my sources if you guys are interested. These are the 3 articles that I read. They're all relatively new, and that helps provide. Here's the more base foundation. Again, computer science is a new discipline, and relatively, I should say. And as well, things are always changing. And so I have these 3 sources right here of the articles that I read to kind of get my base understanding. If you guys have any questions, just leave a comment down below and I'll be happy to answer.